symptoms, and in such cases, allowing our stress to manage us. All the things we habitually do or don't do when we experience stress eventually become patterns. They become our individual coping style. If that behavior is automatic, if it doesn't really involve conscious decision-making or new choices, chances are it's not serving us as well as it could.
Dennis told you what? Oh, Morty, what can I tell you? There's been a mistake. The space has been rented. Yeah, Morty, I don't know whether Dennis knew or not. Look, Morty, I appreciate your problem, but you got to understand one thing. Dennis made a lot of mistakes, and we let him go. Well, sure we can find you something else. Linda will take good care of you. I'll have Linda give you a call, okay? Yeah, sure, Morty, yeah, bye. Oh, regards to Lillian. Bud Campbell.
So they'll be expecting you in L.A. sometime next week.
Next week?
Well, the beginning of the week or the end of the week. You work it out at your convenience.
But I thought the first of the month was...
Is there a problem?
No problem. No.
Good.
Call Mortimer Banks right away.
Who?
Dennis. Do you know what Dennis did? He promised the guy a rented space. We're going to be cleaning up after Dennis for the next 6 years.
I could have told you that before we hired him.
Maureen, when you go out there, you're going to find a trail of blood.
I hope not.
If you ask me, we haven't heard the last of what Dennis has done.
Okay, what do you want me to do?
Well, I told you, call him. Here. No. Well, here's the number. Now, you got to learn how to handle him right. Tell me, why did it take so long to spot the Dennis problem?
Who brought Dennis in here in the first place?
Well, you're the one that let him get away with murder.
Well, I wanted him out at the end of the first quarter.
I wonder how much business we're going to have left from the coast. Mort's going to talk. Well, call him! Call him right away!
What would you like me to tell him?
Well, find him a nice space.
There are many, many challenges and threats that we've mastered in life, and most of us have developed fairly automatic, comfortable routines for dealing with certain kinds of threats and challenges. We go into habitual patterns. The problem is that some of these patterns are not as effective. They're comfortable, they're routine, they're familiar, but they're not as effective as they could be, either in resolving the stress situation, or they may be patterns that are quite effective in changing the world or getting done what you want to do, but it's too high a cost.
A coping style is something we learn. We're not born with such styles. We learn them. We learn them because they do something valuable for us. But when they're dangerous or counterproductive, they can be unlearned. And that's a large part of what we mean by stress management, the learning of more serviceable ways of living and coping than we have.
If you look at your personal coping style, you may find aspects of it that serve you very well in certain ways and poorly in others. As you were assessing your stress responses earlier, you may have identified some physical symptoms. Have you considered the possibility that these symptoms may be directly caused by your coping style? There's increasing evidence that even chronic health problems like heart disease or migraine headaches and even frequent colds may be related to ways that people cope with stress. The idea is that some physical disorders are linked to how we act and what we do.
When we think of coping behaviors that increase the risk of disease, we tend to think of a few old standbys: overeating, overdrinking, smoking. These are particular coping behaviors that we all know are bad if you do too much of them, that they're going to get you into trouble. What is very interesting, however, is that in the last few years, we've begun to discover that some coping behaviors that we don't think are bad, on the contrary, they're qualities we admire and respect, that these coping behaviors can get you into just as much trouble health-wise. To give you an example, the best known of these is what we call the type A behavior pattern.
Yes, yes. Well, on the 8th, I'll be speaking before the town board on all the ecological issues concerning the creek. Well, yes, I understand your concern. Good. Yes, I look forward to speaking with you. Gloria Perez, please. Yes, I'll hold. She did? All right, I'll catch up with her later.
We're still at the stage now of only having suggestions or ideas as to why a behavior pattern that looks so good on paper, somebody who is conscientious, work-oriented, fast-paced, trying his hardest all the time, why he or she should have double the risk of developing heart disease. The guess at the moment is that it comes from the fact that these people put themselves into an almost perpetual state of arousal, by which I mean the heart rate is going, the blood pressure is up, the catecholamines are circulating. It's as if they were running the marathon every day of their lives, every morning. And what that does, according to our current understanding, is that it eventually wears out the coronary arteries, and this eventually leads to increased risk of heart disease.
Saturday. Emily, I told you not to. No, I said I might have to go to Chicago, and if I don't, then I have to stay here and work on this new proposal. Well, I don't know if it'll take all week. Listen, why don't you go with the kids? Yeah. Yes, I still enjoy hiking, but I won't enjoy it unless I finish what I have to finish. Why don't you let me worry about what's best for me? What's best for me is to stay here and finish working on what I'm working on. No, Emily. No, it's not the whole weekend. Saturday is not the whole weekend. Yes, I know I could, but I just said I didn't want to. Hoffman here.
You'll probably recognize some type A behavior in yourself. Impatience, competitiveness on the tennis court or in the conference room. Waking up early, trying to do two things at once, gulping coffee on the run, feeling that you never get anything done quite fast enough. The point is not to drop all these behaviors. They can be useful coping responses if you don't overdo it. What's important is to cut down on the intensity and the frequency of the extremes. There are ways to soften the destructive edge of a fast, high-pressured pace without slowing down. For instance, setting clear priorities, delegating responsibilities, avoiding unnecessary outbursts. Do you always pace when you're waiting for an elevator? Or can you step back and remind yourself that your pacing and stewing isn't going to bring it any faster? Can you decide not to pace next time? Are you aware that you're pacing in the first place? So take a few minutes now to think about what you actually do under stress.
The thing all the way to the cornice, you know? Yeah.
Hey, guys! It's settled! They got a contract.
Hey, how about that?
Yeah. Let's have a drink and celebrate.
All right.
Come on. Paul? Ginger ale?
No, give me a beer.
I thought you didn't drink.
I didn't.
Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I, for one, feel very relieved. Cheers.
I feel exactly the same as I did this morning, except a lot more tired.
Me too.
What's the matter, Paul?
Nothing.
When you get that look.
The usual stuff. That damn proposal. Dennis. All those pieces he dropped.
Jesus.
Herb? Wondering when Herb's going on vacation.
I can't wait.
Oh, God.
tree frog people.
You see?
Craig, I still don't know what he's up to.
That's what you need. Come on. Tell us your biggest problem.
I wish I knew.
It's not easy to change a long-standing, lifelong style or habit of coping. Probably the core, the key, is that the person come to the conclusion that this is something he or she wants to change. The first step is the recognition that something is wrong, that I'm not doing it right, and that I better find a better way of doing it.
Learning how to become aware of our own stress reactions is not an easy task. It really means bringing back into consciousness things that we've learned to tune out for a long time. And as far as I know, there's only one real way to do it, and that's to start practically taking written notes at the time things are happening. In other words, not wait till the evening and saying, was I tense or was I upset, but really starting to chart every time there is a situation of upset. To start taking, it can be very simple notes. It can be 2 or 3 words scribbled down, but where am I? What's happening? What am I feeling? And then you can start to say, how frequent is this in the course of the day? Is it once or 5 times? Is it 10 times? How intense is it? How long is it happening? Do I get upset and just blow over in 15 minutes, or is it something that's going over for a couple of hours? And that's how you begin to have a handle on some of the things that you'd like to change.
Once you begin keeping a stress log, you'll probably discover some interesting and consistent patterns. At the end of this program, there'll be an opportunity for you to find out how to get started. Now, something you may soon notice is that your stress level will become more manageable. Why? Because you've taken a major step toward doing something about it.
Stress management is actually a very straightforward idea. If you take any task, from adding a figure to typing to making a major decision, at some point the effects of stress are such that they diminish your capacity to perform that function. A stress management technique is anything that an individual does to break that cumulative cycle, to detach both psychologically and physically, take a step back. Now, the important point is that the detachment or withdrawal is not the end. The end point is to then enter back into that decision-making process, into that task, with a renewed sense of performance and be able to continue from that point on.
Stress is manageable. That's why we're here. It's not easy to manage, and some people manage it better than others. And people can manage some situations more easily than others. But surely it's manageable. Otherwise, we'd never make it through life.
Well, you haven't yet reached the halfway mark in this course, but you've already won half the battle. You've become acquainted with the enemy. Now it's time to develop a strategy, a plan of attack. There are more options than you might think. We'll be exploring some of them in the next 3 programs. Meanwhile, keep your awareness up, and that will keep your stress level down.
The material on this video cassette is protected by copyright. It is for private use only, and any other use, including copying, reproducing, or performance in public, in whole or in part, is prohibited by law.